Okay. All right. So if I see two people have entered the waiting room, if you can let them in, I think. All right. So just to follow up our stuff we've been talking about with life and fitness, nutrition, and chemistry of food. And I know that more of you teach life and fitness nutrition than do chemistry of foods. And I'm not sure if any of you are also teaching advanced nutrition and dietetics, but you know, a lot of this food stuff, the the standards sort of overlap. They're not exactly the same, but a lot of times you can use the same information and just tweak it a little bit for tweet it whatever a little bit for your particular situation. This is a quote from Jamie Oliver that I've been using a lot when you know, when I talk to board members or people about our programs of study, or when we have to justify why our programs of study are valuable. I just think that's so good. And as a matter of fact, I think I put it at the beginning of a Donors Choose project that I got approved one time. So, you know, save that. And when your people say, why do we need this program of study? Well, that's why. Jessica sent some questions that people had, and I think they were probably just general questions, because if you were in the Foods Lab PD yesterday, I think they answered some of these questions, but I already had this done, so I didn't delete it, but we'll just go through it pretty quickly. Oh, I forgot I had that. I don't know how much you guys have had to teach virtually. We have pivoted to blended learning several times through the semester. We actually are sort of running three schools. We have our students who are totally virtual Arkansas, and I don't have anything to do with them. And then I have a few virtual students who have been taking my class virtually the whole year, but are actually enrolled like in FACS class or life and fitness nutrition. And then we've had some kids who, well, when we've pivoted to blending, what we've done is given our kids the choice of coming face-to-face or doing virtual. And so for the last probably month, I've had like 3 or 4 kids face-to-face and then the rest of them in the computer. So anyway, but we've adjusted, and I'm so proud of us for doing all we've done this year. But these are some of the questions that we had. Okay. One question was, how's everyone doing notes? And the longer I teach, the fewer notes I give. I just have to be honest with you. I am still a firm believer but I'm not so much about writing notes as I used to be, because they know that when we give them notes, it's just regurgitating something that we've already done. You know, maybe we get it in our heads that they have to take notes so that they'll read the PowerPoint. Well, you know, if they're going to read it, they're going to read it anyway. And I don't know that making them write it down makes such a big difference. And I have to say that's a change in thought processes for me. But this year, I've not done nearly as many notes. I have used some digital notebooks, some. I have copied and pasted from some slideshows. And then there's my other suggestion, don't give notes, you know, present your PowerPoint, ask them questions about it, have them write to reflect. Like I said, I do think it's important that we get that paper to pencil to brain kind of thing. But when we're virtual and they're working on the computer anyway, it's sort of lost its usefulness to me. That's my opinion, you know. All right. How many grades do you put in your classes per quarter? And, you know, the ladies who did the Foods Lab yesterday, they had some different, both of them had like different things that they said. And I said, as of yesterday, you see in a couple of my classes, I didn't have very many grades at all. And then in a couple of classes, I had a lot of grades. But those two classes that I have a lot of grades in, which is chemistry of foods and food safety and nutrition, I give them a bell ringer quiz every day. I love Google Forms because to me, it's the simplest thing in the world just to slap those questions in there. You know, in food safety and nutrition yesterday, we studied the difference between cleaning and sanitizing, and I'll have them again tomorrow morning. And so, you know, their bell ringer will say, you know, what's the difference between cleaning and sanitizing, and some questions like that. I'm not giving as many comprehensive tests because we've been in and out so much, but I am quizzing regularly. Anyway, that's just me once again. What kind of assignments are you giving? And the person said, and the ladies yesterday said this, feels like I'm killing myself coming up with Google Forms for them to complete, and I feel bad about giving them ICEV worksheets. I love Google Forms. Like I said, I don't feel like I'm killing myself coming up with them just because they're so easy to do. I've used digital notebooks quite a lot, especially in the beginning of Life and Fitness Nutrition when Rebecca Davis was doing those wonderful interactive digital notebooks. I was using those a lot. I use quite a bit of not really web quests, but just information that they have to find online. I put several of my regular worksheets in digitally, and I've used ICEV more to supplement than anything else. We are using them some this week. In fact, we've started our housing unit, and I'm going through their PowerPoint and then assigning, you know, some of those assignments from that. But I don't ever just stick all the ICEV assignments in there and say, go to it. Are you giving virtual students the same assignment as students who are in your classroom? And the answer for me is yes. I know that a lot of people are using ICEV for their virtuals and then doing other things for their face-to-face kids. But we have pivoted so much, and we've had so many virtual days or days when students could choose virtual that I just have to do them all the same, or it would drive me crazy trying to figure out who was virtual and who was face-to-face at any particular time. When I remember to do it, I record my classes, and my kids are pretty good at reminding me to do that. And I send the record. I record the class. It shows up in my Google Drive about 10 minutes later. And right then I will title it like Facts 223. And then in Google Classroom, you can easily send an email to all your students. And so I send an email that says like Facts Class 223. And I'll say, if you were in class today, delete this email. If you were not in class today, here it is. And then if they miss a game, and it was, you know, like it's a class that recorded and the kids miss the class and they can't go back and play the game, if it's really important or it's questions that they're definitely going to see again, I may put that assignment in the class, in their Google Classroom, as a separate assignment just for them. But yes, I try to keep them the same. And I have some kids who are virtual who really wish they were here face-to-face. And when they're doing the same thing as the face-to-face kids, it just makes them feel better and more included. If you're a Conway person, this one is for you, driving through the roundabout. Yeah. Okay, so do we have any other questions in general like that before we start talking more about just the specific classes? I can't see the chat anymore when I'm presenting. I don't know why, just how it is, I guess. Well, in our Life and Fitness Nutrition, these are the 7 units that we ended up with. And, you know, when we started creating this class just before the pandemic, and we met one day all day long and we hammered out the basics of it. But then some of the specifics you know, we had to just do on our own, talking to each other virtually. And so there are probably some things that we'll want to go back and fix maybe or revise when we look at these frameworks again. But all we ended up was our unit on wellness and lifestyle, then physical fitness, geography and food, the nutrients, consumerism, specific lifestyle concerns, and then current trends in technology. And I just want to remind you, for both of these classes, they are written as a level 3 class. And so when you're thinking, man, that is a lot of stuff. Well, there's a lot of stuff that they're supposed to get in this class. And in an ideal world, they're already going to know the basics of the nutrients, and you can get into the more advanced specific parts of it. Now, I know as we're going through our growing pains and getting our programs to study ladders, I guess you'd say, in order, we're going to have to do some backtracking and stuff. But anytime that you're thinking, man, that's too much, because like the unit on nutrients, I know that it is so long, but you can also break it down. You know, we're just starting, this is how far behind we are. We're just starting this unit on nutrients, but I plan to break that down into several different segments. You know, I'll probably do the macronutrients as a unit, and then do vitamins, minerals, and water as a unit, do the digestive system as a unit, you know, and on like that. These are just some resources that I have used or plan to use this year that I think are really good for nutrition and wellness. And I'll send this PowerPoint to Amanda so that she can, or Sherry, so that they can send it out when they send all the other stuff out with it. I have a streak going. I have not missed a day of walking at least a mile this year. And I was looking up on my wall, I have a calendar that has like every day for the year, and I fill it in every day. Some of my kids, my students, are doing different things like that, you know, that they're trying to do some kind of fitness activity every day. But when we were snowed in last week, it reminded me of these walk at home videos. These are so good to do in your classroom because you have to have a space where you can walk in place, walk like 3 or 4 steps forward, 3 or 4 steps back, a step to the side. And that's really all the space that you need. So you can have your students do these. And there are some that are like 15 minutes, some that are 20, but I haven't done it yet this year, but there have been years that we've done one of these. We had like a Fitness Friday in every class, whether it was part of their class or not. I always tell them that good health is something that they always need to be educated in. We would do one of these walk at home videos. And the extension service has some DVDs of them that they give out every once in a while, but you can easily find these on YouTube. She has a walk at home. It's Leslie Sansone, and she has a YouTube channel that she has these walk at home videos, and you go like either a mile or 2 miles in the space of 15 or 20 minutes. Food in every country, the foodbycountry.com website, that's a really good website when you're doing the geography and food, because it has just gobs of different countries, and then it has like their history and everything like that. My kids, I had them pick a country, you know, and do the research and everything, and pick a simple recipe that they'll be able to demonstrate in class later. We're doing, well, you know, this is not really a lab class anyway, but we don't do cooking. I don't do cooking labs in life and fitness nutrition, but I do demonstrations for them. So anyway, my plan is when we have everybody back face to face, I'm going to let them demonstrate the recipes that they chose. But one of the kids had an African country, and the recipe that he chose was some kind of snack mix. And you cut up beef jerky and raisins and mix them together and put them in a bag. And that was his recipe. And that's the recipe that he's planning to demonstrate for the class. So anyway, And then in my Google Drive, and I've shared this with you, but I went through this summer and I made a PowerPoint. I don't know if they're PowerPoints or Google Slides now, but I made one for each unit, and it's got something for each standard that's in the class that's in those. And then on our Arkansas Family and Consumer Sciences Teachers Collaborate Facebook page, if you're not a member of that, you need to join it. Rebecca Davis did digital notebooks for the first 3 units, I'm pretty sure, and maybe more than those. And then there's another Facebook page called FCS Digital Notebooks. And in that group, Kellyanne Hayes has done some digital notebooks on different cuisines of the world. While we were virtual, my Life and Fitness Nutrition class did one of her notebooks on foods of Africa and one of her notebooks on foods of Europe, which basically took care of a lot of the geography and food objectives for us. And then if you do like to use ICEV, and you know, I'm not anti-ICEV, they're easy to assign in Google Classroom, but ICEV does have several global cuisine lessons that you could put in there. I don't think they will, I don't think they'll just show up unless you search for global cuisine, but when you do, there's a whole lot of them. And then, you know, here's some of the others. My Plate, to me, is one of the best websites that I don't use enough, because every time I look at it, I find something else, you know, that my kids could do. Fooducate is pretty good, but you have to remember that sometimes their information is not as scientific as probably it needs to be. The University of Nebraska has great food stuff. And then Map My Run and MyFitnessPal are both apps that go along great with this class. You probably know that I do the plank challenge and wall sit challenge, the 30-day fitness challenges with my classes. They've been a struggle to do this year because we've been in and out so much. But a lot of times when we're meeting virtually, you know, I'll say, okay, we're going to plank for 30 seconds. And, you know, I'll say I'm going to be off camera for 30 seconds and I'll do my plank and say, I'm assuming that you're planking too. And I'm sure they're just sitting there on their couch, but, you know, I tried. And then there's several TED Talks for fitness, health, and happiness. This link that I gave you, I think there's a couple of them that aren't appropriate, so look at those. But Jamie Oliver has a really good TED Talk. There's a good TED Talk on why I'm a weekday vegetarian. There's just several health and fitness TED Talks that work well with this class. So leading into our chemistry of foods, I think, yeah. In our chemistry of foods class, we have 5 units. I don't know how many of you teach chemistry of foods. I have taught it. My daughter will be 26 this summer, and I was pregnant with her when we wrote the original class. So that's how long I've been teaching this class. We first wrote it as a semester class, and now it's this year-long class. You know, now it does count as a general science credit. And I tell my kids, you know, you've studied cooking food and you've studied the nutrients and you've studied, you know, different things about your diet and things like that. But this class is why the things happen to food that they do when you cook them and when your body processes them. You know, when you can get them to really thinking like that, it's pretty fascinating. So food science, I don't know if you watch The Food That Built America on the History Channel, but there's an objective in this first unit about food scientists, and that Food That Built America, episodes of that fit right in with that. Chemistry and food, the macronutrients. Right now, we are in that unit in my chemistry of foods class, and we're studying sugar, carbohydrates and sugar, and you know, why does peanut brittle get hard and caramel not, you know, so that's fun. And then we'll study the starches and why does, you know, gravy work or not work. And anyway, just lots of things. Microbiology, and then preservation and packaging. And so all of those are, they reinforce what our kids have already learned in science, but it shows it to them in a practical way that makes them remember it. I had a kid last year who said, man, I'm glad we studied acids and bases, because there were lots of questions about that on the ACT, but it means more to them when they've actually tasted the difference between the acid and the base, where they've just looked at it in the science class. These are some resources that I'll share with you that help with chemistry of food, but they're also good for your FACS food unit, and they're also good for just your food safety and nutrition class. That Accidental Scientist, The Science of Cooking, is so good, and it has different things about how to cook different candies and things like that. I'll come back to this in a minute. And there's some others. And this one, this is what I wanted to go to. You see where it says compoundchem.com? This is a infographic from that website. That website, it has lots of infographics about food. And so like when you're doing a recipe, maybe you're cooking say you're cooking vegetables in your food safety and nutrition class or in your FACS class. Well, there's a compound chem sheet, like on the chemistry of Brussels sprouts and the chemistry of sweet potatoes and the chemistry of, you know, carrots or whatever vegetable. And it's probably going to be more advanced than the kids in that class are going to get, but that's okay. You can still, you know, give it to them and show it to them as just an extra resource. This is one from it, and this is a lab that we do in chemistry of foods that is amazing to the kids, because you chop up that red cabbage and then make the indicator, and actually turns those colors. You know. Okay, and I wanted us to talk a little bit about some other things that we can use for all our FACS classes. And I'm just going to finish going through this slideshow, and then I thought we could just talk about all of these, and you could tell me like your experiences with them and what you like and don't like about them. First of all, Quizlet. You know, Quizlet's our old tried and true. Some of our kids have been Quizleted to death. Some of them haven't seen it that much, and they like the flashcards. There are lots of Arkansas sets in Quizlet, which I think is a really good thing about it. And another good thing about Quizlet is it's easy to export the Quizlet questions to another thing like, say, Gimkit, that has games that are more fun. Quiz and we played a couple of games in my classes today, and I was saying, you know, I'm going to talk to some teachers after a while. I want you to tell me what you think about, you know, this game or this game. And Quiz it's funny because the quiet kids like it and the loud kids don't. Because, you know, to me, in my experience, when we play Quiz and they're, you know, going at their own pace and everything like that, they're a lot quieter than when it's Kahoot, and you see, you know, exactly who gets the questions right and who doesn't, and, you know, who you're ahead of and who you passed and all that. Kahoot, loud. It's easy to discuss the questions, you know, and you control the pace of it. But to me, a drawback of Kahoot is that the students have to see that teacher screen to see the answers, because like on their Chromebook or phone or whatever they're playing on, they just see the colors, they don't see the answers. Gimkit has lots of game modes. I thought we might play one of these games here in a second if you haven't played many of them. Blookit is a new one to me, but I really like it and my kids like it. There are lots of different game modes. It's really easy to assign homework in Google Classroom from Blooket. It's easy to assign random names. And when I have kids who are really competitive, or I have some kids that are lower, or I have a kid that is really going to bother if they don't score well, on this one, it's easy to assign them random names, and then they don't have to tell me who they are or tell the other kids who they are if they don't want to. And then there's Nearpod. You know, Jennifer Ray did a really good PD on Nearpod in our FACS conference, and I really like that. I've used that quite a bit. Flipgrid, and like I said, we'll go back and talk some more about some of these in just a second, but Flipgrid, you assign it and the kids film a video. Like I have my kids film themselves saying the FCCLA creed, and that way they don't have to say it, you know, in front of everybody or even in front of me. Another class had to do a hand washing video. That was pretty fun. And then our ICEV and Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle, I think right now your school can get Edpuzzle Pro for free for the rest of the school year if you just fill out a form with them. In Edpuzzle, you know, you can put videos in and then embed questions in it. And my last hour class today, when I said, what do you think about Edpuzzle? This one kid said, oh, I hate Edpuzzle. And I said, why? And she said, because I can't fast forward through the video part of it. So. And then Tarver Academy, you know, Tyler Tarver, who works in one of the Little Rock schools, I think, but he is the Google guru. And on his website, he has a daily quote of the day that makes a great bell ringer. And all my kids really like those. All right. This is one of my favorite cartoons that I've found the whole year. And most people don't think this is as funny as I do, but I know that you'll think it's funny because you understand, right? All right, let me stop sharing here for a second and see everybody here. Let me read some of these chat things. Okay, Amanda said she likes the Leslie Sansone. Okay, I'm gonna scroll back up here on the questions and see a couple of them. I record my classes on Google Meet. We are a Google school, and we use Google Classroom for as our learning management system, and super easy to